Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Inspiring Excellence series in partnership with Danske Bank. The feedback we've had in the series to date has been phenomenal. Members have used words including thought-provoking, exceptional, engaging, and practical. We're so pleased that these events have been hitting the mark, and I know that today's speakers have more fascinating insights in store. Today, we bring you not just one, but two guests. And the format will be a little different, as we'll have an informal chat with Louise O'Donnell and Dr Caroline McGroary. Louise O'Donnell is the Executive Vice President, International Operations, Risk Strategy, Legal and Compliance at Oman Insurance Company. Prior to joining the company in 2013, Louise held a number of positions at AIG and was fortunate to travel and work in 48 overseas offices at AIG. Louise was awarded Woman Leader of the Year in 2019 by the Middle East Insurance Industry Awards. Dr Caroline McGroary is a lecturer in accounting at Dublin City University. Originally from Donegal, Caroline currently works between Ireland and Saudi Arabia, where she is part of a university collaboration centred around the education of Saudi women. Her work has been presented at international conferences and has been nominated for several awards for innovation, excellence in teaching and impact. Caroline recently received the Chartered Star Award from Chartered Accountants Ireland and will represent the profession at the One Young World Summit later this year. Not that I'm biased, but even better, both our guests today are members of Chartered Accountants Ireland. You can enter any questions for them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will do our best to put them to Louise and Caroline at the end of our chat. But before we get started, I'd just like to acknowledge the important partnership with Danske Bank once again. Danske Bank has been with us all the way, as we've seen a real surge of engagement with members over the last year. So I'd like to ask Una Murda of Danske Bank to give a short welcome on behalf of the sponsor. Una?
Thanks, Maeve, and good afternoon, everyone. It's hard to believe that this is the penultimate instalment in this series of events. We've heard such a range of engaging and stimulating speakers, and this week's topic of the legacy of leadership is such a hot topic as we've all seen so much change in leadership styles and challenges, especially in the last 18 months. Louise and Caroline are inspiring examples of empowering leadership, and I'm really looking forward to listening to what they have to say. I'm sure most of you have seen in the media in recent weeks that we at Danske Bank have announced the appointment of our new CEO, Vicky Davis. Vicky will take over from Kevin Kingston later in the year and will be the first female CEO in the bank's 200-year history. This will be a very new and exciting development for the bank, and we're all really looking forward to working under Vicky's leadership. And now I'd like to hand back to Maeve and to our two inspirational speakers. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy today's session.
Great, thanks, Una. Well, I would just like to get started now and welcome our two speakers, Louise and Caroline. Welcome, both of you. I just want to get a bit of, first of all, insight into your current working life and your journey. Can you maybe tell us about your current roles in the Middle East and how your career has taken you there? Maybe start with you, Louise.
Yeah, hi Maeve, and hi to everyone in the Ulster Society and everyone that has joined today. I guess I've had a very unique career to date, that I've always wanted to be an accountant. I'm not sure that many of us might be very confident in saying that, but I always loved it in school because I had a teacher that just made it just easy, and of just definitely knew that I wanted to do accounting in university. And then, like all of us, Maeve, we go that route of the 3.5 year don't want to call it a prison sentence, but it's somewhat, you give up a little bit of your life goes away in order to get it. But I'll tell you, once you get that piece of paper saying you're a qualified chartered accountant, if someone told me when I decided that I wanted to do this, that I could travel the world, and as you said, Maeve, I've had the opportunity to work with a multinational where I worked in 48 different countries, working like various locations with different management styles across Latin America, Middle East. And I guess then, because of working in a multinational, I used to come to Dubai and I would say, wouldn't mind living in Dubai. And it's like, you know, you've got to always say what you want to make your voice known to people. And I think I just passed that message to somebody, and basically he remembered that I had always wanted to work in Dubai, and then a job came up in Oman Insurance, and he basically phoned me. Of course, I had to go through an interview process, and at that time I was living in London, and you know, there was many sort of like London, Dubai, and basically I got the job. And since I've come here, I was basically invited to join the company to set up an internal audit function, and then past 8 years I've basically moved from internal audit and now more into a number of different roles that report into me in terms of our international operations, legal compliance, strategy and risk, and anything else that, you know, anybody wants to throw at me any day. So yeah, I guess that's how I've arrived here. But something else that I think I've also said to you, Maeve, is that it was quite funny when I actually decided to leave Ireland, when I went to look at like recruitment. I remember saying, I definitely didn't want to work in audit, and I definitely didn't want to work in financial services. But hi-ho, look at me now, still working in financial services, and started my career in internal audit. So I always say, don't ever say what you don't want, because you'll probably end up getting it. And that's how I've arrived in Dubai.
Oh, brilliant. Caroline, on to you.
Thank you so much, Maeve. I'm so delighted to be here today and to have the opportunity to speak at this event, and thank you for this opportunity. And I hope that I suppose everybody in the Ulster Society gained some little bit of insight into working, our experiences of working in the Middle East. So in many ways, what has brought me here, I suppose I'll go back to the start. When I was at school, always had an interest in accounting, but equally had the interest in education. So when I went to university, I pursued a degree in accounting and finance, and then the master's in accounting. And I suppose I still knew that, yes, accounting is the field really, really interesting. But again, I knew I was being pulled towards the education field as well. So then I suppose the natural route for many people coming out of a master's in accounting or even a degree in accounting is to go on and do the chartered accountancy qualification. And I suppose at that point, I was really thinking, will I go down the route of doing a teaching qualification or the chartered accountancy qualification? And I spoke to a few mentors, and they would have been lecturers at the time who were chartered accountants in academia. And they said, absolutely go and do the chartered accountancy qualification, because it is going to open up so many doors for you, and it'll equally open up the door of academia if that's what you want to do after your training contract. So that is ultimately exactly the route that I took. I trained with Deloitte in Dublin, an amazing experience. I really have to say I thoroughly enjoyed the training contract and all of the different experiences that came with that. Alongside my training contract, I also got involved in their learning department. I also got involved in doing tutorials in universities in the evening time, again, because I wanted to get a little bit of experience on the teaching side to see, was this really something that, you know, I just had in my head, or was I even going to be good at it? So I thought I better get a bit of experience before I actually try and pursue this as a career. What opened up then from all of that was a position in Dublin City University after my training contract. So I joined DCU in 2010 and was delighted to join an amazing group of people there. 2013 then came, and a little bit like Louise, I really wanted the opportunity to travel internationally as well. And I suppose I didn't know exactly what way that was going to happen, because I knew once I went into academia, I was going to have to do my PhD, and you know, there was a lot of different things that were competing at the time. But then 2013, as I said, came, DCU were signing a partnership with Princess Noor University, which is the world's largest women's-only university. And we were asked, basically, did we want to join the partnership to go out and set up a division of DCU Business School in the Middle East. And as soon as I heard it, I said, I absolutely want to be part of that. So I went out initially for 4 months, and there was a team of 4 people, and that came out at the very start. And that was the plan, to be here for 4 months, set up the programs, and then would rotate with staff members in Dublin. But honestly, once I got on the ground here, I knew that this was something incredibly special, and that it was going to be was an opportunity to do something really, really different. And as well, that the Chartered Accountancy qualification was really going to open a lot of doors for me in the Middle East. And that's exactly what it did. So I'm still here 8 years on. And like that, I'll share some of the experiences over the next hour, but that's ultimately what brought me to my current role.
That's fantastic. It's obvious to me there's a lot of ambition and drive here with you both. So maybe just stick it with yourself, Caroline there. What has your experience taught you in terms of driving for excellence?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with driving for excellence, for me, it has always been, if you have some vision or some goal of where you want to get to, you might know exactly how you're going to get there. But when you have, I suppose, some direction where you want to go, that's the starting point with it. And I suppose the best way I can explain this is through an example, and an example of being in Saudi Arabia. So many of you may know Saudi Arabia is going through a period of substantial economic and social change. And I've been on both sides of this. And that really came in 2016 when the Saudi government announced Vision 2030. The Vision 2030 is the Saudi government's strategic plan to diversify the economy away from oil. And again, as we all know, Saudi Arabia is an oil-rich country. So to diversify the economy away from oil, that basically requires to look at every single sector. So within that, obviously, the one that I'm most involved in is education. So they have set the bar really, really high in terms of driving for excellence in the education sector. So that's what the goal that is set at the very, very top. And then that filters down literally into every operation that we do daily. So we're guided by that. And as I said, then on the ground, we're looking at ways that we can drive for excellence, that we can be innovative, because there is no blueprint for what we're doing here. Yes, we are like DCU is a very established university in Ireland. But again, coming out to the Middle East to set up a division of the business school, that was never done before. The culture here is very different. So we had to, in many ways, come together and figure out a way to do this ourselves, and to use, I suppose, the local framework and the local context as, I suppose, a source of opportunity to do different things. So for me, what has been absolutely key in driving for that excellence has been having a supportive team around each and every one of the staff members. Because as I said, when you're doing something new, you don't necessarily know exactly how to get there. So there has to be a willingness and a capacity to learn within that team. You're going to make mistakes when you're doing something new. And it's to have that, just to have people around you that are supportive of you and that can just allow you to learn within that space. And when that happens, my experience of that is when it happens, it is amazing what can be achieved. And as I said, together, us as a team, we've achieved so much here. Like there's nearly, I think, and I don't have the most recent statistics on it, but we have graduated nearly over 700 students with a DCU degree, and PNU's the university here. They have a dual degree. But it's not just the degree that they have. We have engaged them in a lot of community activities, and they're very much active citizens. And that all came from us taking an approach to teaching that wasn't necessarily something that I had a lot of experience in doing before, but having that supportive team and that willingness to do something different really, really allowed us drive for excellence. I think another point, and I know Louise is going to touch on it as well, is if you need support and if you just need a different perspective on things, seek out a mentor. And that mentor can be within your own organization, or it can be outside of the organization. Because as I said, when you're trying to do something different, it can, you can question your own, confidence at times. I think we all know about imposter syndrome. It's a very real thing. And so like that, it can be sometimes brilliant to get a different perspective. And I've been really lucky to have mentors in so many different facets of my life, both personal and professional. And they're the people that when I find that, I'm questioning, should I be doing this, should I not? And I get a different perspective. That's when I really feel that, okay, I can drive this forward because I know the overriding principles of why I'm doing it. And that has been really, I suppose, a guiding light for me in terms of driving for excellence.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's all about the support network, really, isn't it, Caroline? Louise, yourself then, what has your experience taught you in terms of driving excellence?
Yeah, so I'll continue on, particularly the point around not being afraid to ask for help. And I really think sometimes we are afraid to ask for help. And I can give you my own experience. When I first moved here, you know, I moved here not knowing anybody, moving to a brand new company, being the only female among the executive management team. I was the first female executive that the company had ever hired. I probably, because of my age, I definitely brought the average age of that group down. And, you know, for the first 3 to 6 months, I really grappled. I've spoken about this very openly in our company and externally as well. I really grappled with, what have I done? Have I made a mistake? What the hell? And you know what I did? I said, you know what, let me get an executive coach. Let me speak to someone. Let me, as Caroline said, you know, figure out that direction of where you want to go to and seek out that help. And, you know, I'd worked with like lots of people, lots of different individuals from a very early age in my career. But this was just a little bit different. And it was just, you know, I just needed like that extra confidence, or that somebody sitting on my shoulder, knowing that that person was there if I had a question. So I sought out help through an executive coach. And once I built that confidence again and eliminated any of that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome that, like, you know, eats away at your brain, it was like no looking back. I think as well, one of the things that I've definitely learned in terms of driving for excellence, you've got to listen to people around you. It's not about saying yes, but you've got to hear other people's viewpoints, because you know what, no one can live like a lone ranger, or as I often say, you're not on an island on your own, because in order to build something from the scratch and in order to put foundations in, you've got to put everyone's viewpoints together, and you've got to also put the best team together and recognize that, you know, you cannot do this on your own. I think as well, when we think of excellence, we always think about seeking for perfection, which frankly, it's great. It's a fantastic idea to seek for perfection, but in reality, I just don't think it's possible, and it will never be possible. But what we have to strive to do is to deliver the best in the circumstance that you're working in. I think as well, something that I've learned is never be afraid to say you cocked it up or you messed it up. And basically, you know, it's easier to say you messed it up at the early stage where you can actually maybe correct the course. And even when you're seeing that you're messing it up and you're still saying, no, you know what, I'm just gonna go this direction. I need to get this finished. You've got to just step back and accept, you know what, this isn't working. Let's see how we can redirect. Let's see how we can actually get this back on track in some way. And really, you know, failure isn't a bad thing. And once you actually accept that there's a mistake there, it's sometimes a lot easier to fix it in the earlier stages. And I think something that I learned at a very early stage of my career was the importance of teamwork, and, you know, never to say I. And I think I learned this probably the hard way. Went into a meeting, I had done all the work, I was very young, very naive, and I was so proud of everything that I did. And I was like, I did this and I did that. And I walked out, and my boss at the time said, really, I is a great person, Louise. You know, I didn't actually have any involvement in this, did I? And I was like, actually, you did. And he said, yeah, because we're a team. And he said, always remember, you can never get everything done on your own. You have to drive on teamwork. And I still use those words today when I hear it, like from people even on my own team. You know, you bring it back to that you always need teamwork in order to drive for excellence and to get stuff done.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think we can all resonate with the imposter syndrome, definitely. And you both actually just touched on this, but with regards to mentors, and I'm just keen to know myself, was there a particular mentor that stood out for you during your career? And what do you think is the most important lesson they taught you? Louise, we stick with you.
Well, I think that person that taught me about the I he was a mentor. He still is a mentor, and he's still very close to my heart, where I would actually pick up the phone anytime that I'd have something to talk to him about. I think, I guess I've had mentors, and I am a mentor to people as well. Now, I think the most important is that you have to feel comfortable, and you also have to trust those mentors, that they're not going to always be there to give you the answer. And that's not what a mentor is meant to do. They're not meant to give you those answers, but they're a guide for you. And I think, yeah, I would definitely say that I've been very fortunate to have great bosses and great mentors.
Very important, absolutely. Yeah. Caroline, for yourself, was there anyone that stuck out or stood out in your career so far?
Yeah, absolutely, and I suppose I don't mind using their name either. Another chartered accountant, and it would have been one of my PhD supervisors, so Professor Barbara Flood, an absolutely amazing mentor, because she has, I suppose, helped me navigate the journey of both a professional career and equally as a student. And that was really challenging at times, being both a colleague and a student of a mentor. So as I said, and the PhD process went on over a number of years. But what she really taught me is, I suppose, just the level of professionalism that she dealt with me in every setting, but the level of encouragement, even when things were really, really difficult. And in particular, I'm focusing on the PhD experience, because when I was doing my PhD, I was working full-time in the Middle East and trying to do a PhD at the same time, while at the same time, I was very, very involved in the community and doing a lot of industry engagement projects as well. So the level of juggling was at times incredibly difficult. But when you have somebody there to help you navigate that and to help you actually see that, okay, no, you're doing all of these different things for a reason, and this will all come together eventually, but and equally allowing you to, I suppose, and again, that's what I'm saying about a supportive team, is allowing you to learn within that process, allowing you to make mistakes and allowing you to rise above that each time you're knocked back. And I think for that reason, she's just been an incredible mentor to me, and somebody that I have learned so much from. And I would hope that I can be the same to somebody else going forward based on what I've learned from her.
I'm sure it will be. That's fantastic. There's obviously some key points in your life that have helped you to where you are now. And I probably know the answer to this one already, Louise. As you said, there's no I in team, but are there any key values and drivers that have helped you to succeed?
Yeah, I think definitely never be afraid to challenge the status quo. As cliched as that might sound, speak up. If you don't agree with something, don't allow your viewpoint not to be heard. I think people, they don't have to always agree with you, but at least you put your thoughts on the table. You can't walk out of that meeting and say, well, I wanted to say this and I didn't say that. You've got to be able to challenge that status quo. I think as well, something that I've learned as well is, sometimes it's very easy for people to criticize what somebody else has done. So, and we see this a lot at times that, someone new might come in and they'll criticize what the previous person did. It doesn't actually achieve anything at all. And I think, it's something that I just don't agree with, and something that people should be mindful of, because it's very easy to criticize, but it's very difficult to build. I think as well, something that I often say is, I can't wear a mask. The person that you see outside and inside the organization is me. And I think it's extremely important that we are the same person. And we hear a lot these days about authenticity and, being authentic. It's actually horrible having to wear, how to speak differently to different people, because actually, if you're yourself, people will like you actually even more, and you'll be far more personable, and people will actually want to work with you. So I think for me, it's about not wearing masks. It's about challenging the status quo, never being afraid to speak up. And I think then if everything comes back to what you're doing, it feels right. I think it's my integrity is something that I always talk about in terms of the people should, if something doesn't feel right, probably isn't right. So, you know, we as accountants and working in financial services, we work in a very regulated environment, you know, and we still have to get business done. But if it doesn't feel right, if someone is trying to challenge you, if someone is trying to question you and like really challenge that integrity, integral part of your, you know, your compass, then it probably isn't right. And I think they're just the things that I've always followed in terms of my own values, you know, and it's worked so far. I mean, you know, in terms of not wearing masks, what you see today is what you get, and just it's got me this far so far. So it's like, I think someone was saying, fake it till you make it. I definitely can't fake it till I make it, because I just would not be able to wear that mask.
No, it's hard to do, isn't it? It's all about trust building, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Caroline, are there any key values and drivers that have helped you to get to where you are now?
Very, very similar to what Louise is saying. You know, the integrity piece, I think that's absolutely critical in anything that you do. And if that's, you know, use that to guide you, because, you know, we all have to make different decisions on a daily basis. And if anything compromises that, and you know that, you know, maybe you need to think about it a little bit more before you proceed. So that's definitely one thing. Also, Louise touched on it. I just think respect towards others. I think it's sometimes really, really positive to have differences of opinions with people, and that you can learn and you can grow through that. But I think it's really, really important, regardless of that, if you have differences with people, is to be respectful of every different opinion and every different person that is in front of you. And because I think that just lends itself to, it's a better way to be. The other thing that has really, I suppose, it's really, really stood to me, and this is from, like, I can identify this from, I suppose, the earliest memories, is really work ethic, persistence, and just driving. If you have a goal, that if you really want to achieve that, to just put in the graft, put in the hard work. It may not turn out exactly what the way you want it, but my goodness, you know, what you will achieve on that journey if you actually dedicate yourself. That has stood to me, as I said, in every single thing that I have done. Because sometimes, you know, people would say to me, oh, look at all the different things that you've done. And I'm like, yeah, but if you actually were to see what actually went on behind the scenes to get to that place, it has been sheer hard work. And that has brought me down all of these different avenues. And I think, and that's why I'm so encouraging to students, because, you know, I've dealt with so many students who have had struggles between failing exams or just, you know, really, really having difficulties within the classroom. And it could be from lots of different factors, things that are maybe happening in their private lives, and it's really impacting on them, their ability to study and get their degrees, and equally work with a lot of professional students. And I always can tell my own stories then, you know, regardless of what is going on, and regardless of, and coming back to this piece on imposter syndrome again, if you actually are willing to put in the hard work, and again, seek support if you want it or if you need it, you will absolutely achieve. And sometimes you'll achieve a lot more than what you ever set out to achieve. So that is another, I suppose, value and driver that has absolutely stood to me. And it's just that work ethic and persistence, and but to do it in a way that is respectful to others, and equally that is embedded in integrity as well.
That's fantastic. Yes, thanks, Caroline. Now bring it back to a bit more of that international piece. To those out there thinking of traveling internationally to work there, there's a lot of myths probably about the Middle East, and, you know, especially around the cultural differences. Is there any advice you would give for people who would like to move to the Middle East to work? Caroline, we'll maybe stick with yourself.
Great, Maeve. Yeah, I have to say, now again, I'll bring it back to my own experience of coming to the Middle East. Again, in particular, Saudi Arabia can be portrayed in the media in a very, and sometimes a very negative light. when I was coming out here, and again, it was in 2013, there's been substantial changes in that length of time, but in 2013, I was coming out again as a woman on my own, coming out to work in a university that was all centered around the education and empowerment of Saudi women. There was a lot of, I suppose, people maybe in my peer group that were, would have expressed concerns about coming here. I'm really, really, suppose, delighted that I was really open-minded about coming. I said, I really want to make this decision for myself. I want to be on the ground. I want to absolutely embed myself in the culture here and to really learn what it's all about. And I have to say, it has been really the experience of a lifetime. Saudi people are the most welcoming, both men and women, are the most welcoming people that I have ever encountered. To be a visitor in their country is a huge privilege. And when you come here, that's, I suppose, the point I'm trying to make is you have to be open-minded. You have to be hugely respectful of the culture. It is just different. It's not right or it's not wrong. It's different. Saudi Arabia is a very conservative country. And but even within that, there's huge changes that are coming down the road. And those changes are gradual, but it's at the pace that is, I suppose, is, it's ultimately suitable for the country and for the people to move at that particular rate. And just to give you a few examples of some of the changes that I have seen. So when I first came here, and again, us as a team of 4 people, as we grew that team to nearly 35 staff at one point. And part of our role was to ensure that all our students got work placements. So again, we were coming here, we had absolutely no business contacts. We're like, how on earth are we going to get all of our students placed into work placements, especially, again, we're in a country that hasn't really opened up yet for the employment of women. So that was a huge challenge to us. And going into some of the offices, because we were women, we had to enter through a different entrance because there was pure segregation within the company. So there was a women's section, a men's section. So that was one thing where, like, okay, this could present quite a lot of challenges for us, in terms of trying to get our graduates into jobs. Simple things like then, day to day, you go to Starbucks, there was queue for men, queue for women. And this was really, really bizarre, having to be covered. Fast forward that now on 8 years, there is only segregation in companies if Saudi women want it. So the huge difference is there's no choice. So now you go to Starbucks, you have to get into a long queue because there's men and women in the queue. As regards covering, it is, I have the freedom now to go out without an abaya. I actually still wear it and just leave it loosely open. Sorry, the abaya is the full cover, and that's you wear, and you probably have seen, people would be familiar with it. But again, it's my choice now as an expat, whether I wear that or not. That wasn't a choice a number of years ago. Even as regards the colours of the abayas, my goodness, some of the they're absolutely amazing. It can be an unbelievable fashion statement. And we were saying, we've said on a few occasions, over the time here, when you're complimenting other people's abayas, it really shows, the changes that are happening. So that's just some of the things. Equally, I've had the opportunity to attend a number of weddings here. One of them was actually a royal wedding. And that was, again, just such an amazing experience. All the women in one venue, all the men in another venue. And again, but all of that is now changing gradually. So again, what that is and what I have learned from that is it's just difference in cultures. And that's what the advice that I would give to anybody that's coming here is that, be really open-minded, because actually immersing yourself in a culture like that, it's a huge education, and it's really amazing to be part of it. The other thing, and I'll make this point really quickly, is Saudi Arabia in particular at the minute, it is a land of opportunity. When I see there's really highly influential projects going on at the minute. One of them you may have heard about is called NEOM. And that is a brand new city that is being built. So it's a brand new ecosystem being built from the ground up. It's going to be a city that is powered by renewable energy, which I think is quite significant in an oil-rich country. The city itself is it's considered around the size of Belgium. So, and that's just one example of many. They call them giga projects. that is going on in the country. So to be part of that, so for anybody thinking of coming to the Middle East, that's the type of projects that's happening, and it really is. So again, coming back to your question, I think be really open-minded if you are thinking about coming here, and equally to seek out the opportunities, because there are so many.
Fantastic. Louise, I'm glad to hear from you as well. But just to stick with Caroline for just a second, you've obviously learned a lot from your time in the Middle East, and that'll stay with you in the future. But what do you think you would have gained from that you wouldn't have if you had stayed in Ireland for your full working career?
Yeah, so I think for me, again, it's that cultural piece. I had traveled, through holidays and things like that, and that was an amazing cultural experience as well. But I think actually being on the ground here and really just immersing myself in this culture that's been a huge learning, because I didn't have that level of insight into the particular culture here. What I also have learned that I'll be able to bring back to Ireland is, I suppose, the need to be adaptable. And I know Louise is going to touch on this point as well. When we first arrived here, again, we were tasked with this responsibility of setting up a business school. And we're like, okay, this will be fine. This is going to operate exactly the same way as it does in Dublin. Absolutely fine. We know what we're doing. We got on the ground, and all of those plans literally went out the window. And we had to adapt to a very, very different way of doing things here. And that took a little bit of time to learn how to let go of things and just to do things a different way. And equally, what I've learned through all of that is, and again, Louise touched on it, it's being respectful towards other opinions, listening to other people, because again, and I made a point, we are a visitor in Saudi Arabia. That's what our team are here. They're visitors here. So we have to be respectful of all of the people that is working around it. And it is a collaboration. It's not us coming in and telling our Saudi colleagues what to do and how to do it. It is us absolutely working together. We learn from them, they learn from us. And I think that is, I suppose, the biggest learning that I have had from here. So on one side, the cultural piece, I definitely have learned so much about the Middle Eastern culture, and equally I have learned so much about how to be adaptable to other to different settings.
Caroline, Louise, is there any advice following on from that you would give to anyone wanting to move? And I suppose following on from that.
Yeah, I think Caroline has pretty much said everything in terms of definitely the open-minded. I would like, so UAE is a little bit more evolved, and it's not, it's still like Saudi is going to slowly, I think in the next couple of years, it'll catch up with how the UAE is. We're a lot more open, but yet we are still, you still have to be respectful. I'm sure you see lots of things in the newspaper about people being arrested and for various things that they shouldn't have done. And they shouldn't have even done those things in a normal country. And a lot of the rules that we have here actually prevent any of this antisocial behavior that you see sometimes in Ireland, UK, Europe, US. I think it's a fantastic place for families, for singles. It's extremely safe. I mean, I don't lock my car. I don't lock my apartment. I'm not telling you my address or where I live, but yeah, I mean, it's just so safe. And I think sometimes I often say that we live in a bubble, because then when you go home to Ireland or you go to London, you're a little bit like careless, because you'll leave your handbag down. You'll expect that it's there when it comes back, because it is so safe. And yeah, it's just being open-minded, being respectful, accepting different cultures. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from living here, working here, it's about the opportunity that I've had to lead such diverse teams. I mean, UAE, Dubai is like, it's a melting pot of like, I think it's about 191 different nationalities. We're a company of about 700 employees, and we have 40 plus different nationalities. I mean, if I look at the team that I lead Omanis, I lead Lebanese, Indian, Emirati. I mean, I would never get this in Ireland. But because of that, you also, as Caroline said, you need to be adaptable. You need to be able to listen to different viewpoints. And, you know, we're not all the same culturally, east, west, you know, you often hear it, you know, Mars, Venus, east, west. And it's true. It really is true. We are different, but you've got to accept everyone's got a different viewpoint. And if you listen to that, you can actually create some amazing things. So I think it's that adaptability and the ability to work with pretty much anyone. And that's what we've gotten from living and working in the UAE.
Brilliant. I mentioned at the start that you were both fellow chartered accountants, and for all those newly qualified or indeed potential future chartered accountants, many say the qualification is a business leadership qualification. How has your CA qualification supported you in your success?
Maeve, I mean, honestly, you know, I know that I'm going to say something again that's a bit cliched, because accountants are often perceived as so boring, and we're not. We are so not. And the qualification, and I think I said this at the start of the call, if I'd known in my school days, like what opportunity the chartered accountant qualification would give me, the doors that it opened, it just allowed me to do so many things. And, you know, I get to come and talk to you today. I also get to go into work every day and enjoy what I do in terms of building and managing people, because actually you're taught so many things. And if you know, in your chartered accounting qualification, you start at a very early stage in a professional environment, and you actually learn, like Caroline was saying, about that work ethic, because you're studying and you're working all at the same time the majority of the time. And that was certainly how I did it. And it's just then you have that vision and plan. The moment I qualify, I'm going to do ABC, but it leads you to so many different opportunities and routes. I mean, I don't work in finance anymore. It's more in a general management leadership role. And that, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my chartered accountant qualification.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and it's a passport. It literally, Maeve, as I've said, it's a passport to travel.
No, it is. You're absolutely right. I'm in full agreement there. Yeah. Absolutely. Caroline, what about yourself? Firstly, congratulations on your Chartered Young Star Award, firstly. So that's probably one thing that has brought you to it anyway.
Thank you, Maeve. Yeah, really echo just everything Louise is after saying. It is definitely a passport to do so many different things, and I think Louise made an excellent point there. If we had known back in school what it would actually open up, there wouldn't have been any question as to, you know, what different routes may I go down. It has just opened up so many doors, and I mentioned a few of them at the start as regards. Like, I always wanted to go down the education route. I knew that was something I was very passionate about, but I equally loved accounting. And then to be able to merge the two of those together has just been really and truly, for me, that is a dream come true in terms of career. After I trained with Deloitte, and as said, an amazing experience training there, and then obviously doing the professional exams, then going into academia. I loved it so much I did a PhD in the area. So my PhD is actually in the area of professional accounting education, and it's looking at all the factors that impact on students' engagement and their performance in the exams. And again, why did I do that? Because I really just believe in this qualification and what it can bring. And I suppose I wanted that deeper insight that then I could share with maybe future accountants and current accountants going forward. But as regards, you know, where it has brought me, I equally wanted to travel internationally, and it opened up that door straight away for me. When I came here to Saudi, again, and I mentioned a little bit about it, a huge part of our role here is industry engagement. As a business school, that's critically important for our students. So as I said, we arrived here, we had no business contacts at all. And between the four of us, you know, we started going out to companies. And when they ask you about your background, you say you're a chartered accountant, they recognize the qualification. Straight away, you have credibility. And for me and for our team, it has just opened up so many doors. And like you said, then this whole experience has come around then to the Chartered Star award, which I am so proud to hold alongside my now friend, Ashley McCaffrey. And we're just having the most amazing experience in the lead up to the One Young World Summit, which will be held in next July. And again, I was inspired to go forward for that award by other members of the profession. And one person that comes to mind is Sinead Hamilton-Fox, just an amazing person that really inspired me. And I saw the platform that she got, again, as a chartered accountant and then as a Chartered Star, and what she could actually do with that. So it very much inspired, and I know Aisling is inspired by her as well, to go forward and to really make something of that. And the most recent thing for me is I've actually just been awarded a Fulbright scholarship to actually go to the US next year, and that's to do more work in the area of accounting as well. And I can safely say that none of that would have been possible without the Chartered Accountancy qualification. So I have a huge debt of gratitude to the profession for everything that it has provided to me.
That's fantastic. Congratulations, Caroline. For all those young newly qualified, unfortunately, I'm not putting myself in this bracket now, but is there one piece of advice you would give them when starting out in their career and inspiring excellence? Louise, I'll go back to you.
Oh, I mean, you know, we can plan everything, mate, but I think my advice is if you see an opportunity and you want that opportunity, go for it. Because as a newly qualified, even as a fellow chartered accountant, there's so many doors and opportunities out there. And sometimes I think we hold ourselves back from taking those opportunities. And I think as well, something that I've learned, knowing sometimes the job that you want and what you want to do. And like I said, speaking, which is all connected to speaking up and telling somebody, because then at least you're actually letting people know what you want. And I think it's definitely not always going with the plan, because I certainly can't say that, yeah, I had a plan to do ABC. I had a plan, but I came off that plan and I squiggled a little bit. But yeah, I think it's take every opportunity.
I think things don't always go to plan, isn't that correct, Louise?
Yeah, and I think we've definitely learned that in the last year, that, you know, throw the business continuity plan out the window.
A lot of businesses doing that last year.
Exactly.
Yeah, Caroline, I know we talked about this earlier, about challenges that you've come across along the way. Was there any particular stumbling block on your journey that actually turned around to be a positive, do you think? You know, you touched on it slightly earlier.
Yeah, I think we need another webinar to come along with this.
That up, Karen.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's been many, you know, and I suppose I can move between two. The PhD was, it has been an incredible experience now that I'm on the other side of it. But the whole way through that very much started out with me saying, okay, I'm doing a PhD. This is going to be a linear process of I spend whatever number of years studying, and that will be absolutely fine, and I'll have the qualification, and then I'll move on to the next thing. It absolutely didn't go like that at all. So within 1 year of starting, or within the same year of starting, I moved to Saudi Arabia, as I said, and then I was presented with all of these other opportunities that I really wanted to pursue. So with the opportunities, equally came the challenges of trying to balance those demands of working full-time, studying part-time. And as I said, a PhD is an incredibly demanding process, really rewarding, but really demanding. And as I said, there's you know, a lot of different challenges along that way, but having a really good mentor and somebody who can actually step in and say, when you've literally said, I can't do this, I just can't do this, I'm going to have to go a different route. And they were like, no, just take a step back, you know, take a little bit of time away from it, come back and re-engage with it. Remember the reasons why you're doing it. And when I could always bring it back to, okay, education is where I want to be. I know that this PhD will give me an opportunity. It'll open up a lot more doors for me when I have it. And it was coming back to that, re-engaging with that purpose. And I think that's a really important thing. And regardless of what you're doing, if it's purpose driven, it's much easier to get to the end when you're presented with challenges. The other part, and again, and I've mentioned this before, a few people might have heard me saying it before. I don't necessarily look at it as a challenge, but it's definitely a learning experience, and I'm so glad that I put myself out there again. It was with the Chartered Star Award. That was the second time I went for it. I was a finalist the first year round, and then was selected alongside Aisling just last year. Again, I was incredibly nervous about putting myself forward again, because it's a public application process. And when you're putting yourself out there, it can be really daunting to do that, and in particular to do it twice, and knowing that you could, and again, I don't want to use the words fail, because it doesn't matter, and you know what point you get to, but it was a really, really humbling experience to actually have to go through it twice. And now what it has opened up, and I suppose is just a piece of, it's a piece of, I suppose, advice, if I'm even qualified enough to give advice, but it's definitely something to encourage people if you really want to go for something, if you really believe in what that is. For me, I knew that One Young World and something in that Charter Star was a huge platform, because sometimes it can be really difficult to get the platforms and to really, you know, drive forward change. And for me, it's in particular in the space of education. So I knew that it was worthwhile to go for it again, even to go for it the first time, because what I learned from going for it the first time was amazing. And that brought me down this route of, and you may have seen some of the articles that were written about the financial literacy initiative that I ran in Saudi Arabia and the impact that had, and it got support at governmental level. That all came from going through the Charter Star competition the first time, because what I said was, you know what, it doesn't really matter if I win this or if I don't. And if I won it, I was going to do this financial literacy initiative. And I said, it's not good enough that I would only do it if I won it. I was like, go and do it anyway, because it's really, really important. And it's really important for these women. And so I suppose they're two very recent challenges of mine. I said the PhD, which was incredibly rewarding, but very challenging, and equally the Chartered Star. And to go forward for that twice, as I said, it's hugely humbling now to actually have it. And I feel incredibly privileged to have it, and I'm going to make the most of the opportunity.
That's fantastic, Caroline. Yeah, it's what you learn from it, really, isn't it? Louise, was there any stumbling blocks on your journey actually turned around?
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's lots of stumbling blocks. I think I can't remember any, but I'm sure definitely, Maeve, you caught me off guard on that one.
Challenges going on.
Yeah, I'm going to have to think about it.
No, we'll move on. That's grand. We have actually a question in our Q&A box here. I'll maybe put to you. What motivates you on a day-to-day basis, Louise?
I think what motivates me, and I think advice that I would give to people about motivation, you've got to love what you do. You've got to be able to love what you do. And the day that I actually don't enjoy doing insurance, don't enjoy doing something in work, I think that's the day that I will not feel motivated. It's about having that passion. And I know that might sound, again, something simple, but it really is about being able to go into work and have fun and work with people that you enjoy. You know, that's the easy part of the day. We spend more time in our office than sometimes with our own family. So you've got to be able to enjoy your work. And then, of course, you've got to also be able to manage that work-life balance that we always hear about. But I think, yeah, it's what motivates me every day is I enjoy and I love what I do. And I love the teams that I work with.
Fantastic. Caroline, anything in particular that motivates you on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's again very similar to what Louise said. It's doing something that you love, and I touched on it before. It's that purpose. For me, I know it's definitely my purpose and my career is centered around education. I just place so much value in education. I think that is coming from my upbringing and just the value that my parents placed on it, and the fact that they gave me every opportunity, me and my brother, every opportunity to pursue the education that we wanted. I'm now in Saudi Arabia and have the opportunity to do it for women here. And just actually to touch on that point, it's something that really motivates me is that ability to be able to tell the story of Ireland and how far we have come as regards the empowerment of women, because so many of my students ask me, how did you get to the position that you're in? Because sometimes we feel that everything, while it's moving in the right direction, it's hard to know where it's going to go. And I always tell the stories of Ireland and the stories that have been told to me by my parents and grandparents about the challenges that they had, and things like the Marriage Bar Act and it being abolished in 1973, the Employment Equality Act, and how all of those government-backed initiatives actually have led to the empowerment of women. To be able to share those stories here, because everything that is happening in Saudi is government-backed as well. It's going in exactly the same direction. So that's a huge motivator for me. And as I said, that links all back to my purpose, and that is to basically be in an educational role and to help other people on that journey.
That's fantastic. I'm conscious of time here, so I'm going to pose one more question for you both. I suppose just this leadership series has really taught us about ensuring we're driving change when going through our own leadership journey. Can you tell us about leaving a positive legacy in our organisations and how we can approach that? Louise, maybe put that one to you first.
I think, it's kind of like what I said earlier, maybe sometimes it's really easy to criticize what has been done in the past. I think when you actually, it's like what Caroline was saying and what she's doing in Saudi with the women, in every organization that is driving for change, think about when you go in to do something, when you're gone, what other people will say about you. And it's about creating that positive legacy and making sure that you've built the right team. And they may say terrible things about you, and you know what, you're not there anymore, so who cares? But at the same time, if you go in and you build something and you start to think about building and putting those foundations in place, we always have to still paint the house every year, but the foundations, when you're actually building or going through massive changes within your organization, if that's there, you know what, you can knock it down, but the foundations will still actually stand pretty damn straight in the ground. And I think in terms of I'm always very conscious about the people that, the teams that you lead. They will go on to different organizations. They will mirror what you've actually taught them, because we do it ourselves. Maeve, I'm sure, Caroline, all of us on this group, we've had great bosses that we actually have worked with. And you know what? We've also had maybe some bosses that we didn't like working with, but guess what? We also learned from them. We learned what maybe not to do. So I think leaving legacy behind in different organizations, for me, it's about making sure that the teams that you work with, once they go into a different organization, and once they go and work elsewhere, that you've actually developed them, you've built enough skills that actually they're able to go on and be leaders of the future in other organizations or even within your own organization. So I think, it's about leaving good, strong foundations.
Positive note. Caroline, what about yourself?
Yeah, again, very much reiterating what Louise is saying. For me, I think a really important legacy is empowering the people around you. As I said, I've been here in Saudi. Our role here is to empower women, and we're doing it in the space of education, but equally to empower people within your own team. I just think that is so incredibly important within any team, doesn't matter where you're working all over the world. And I thought it was really actually interesting in Mandy Hickson's talk, and again, it was such an amazing speaker, but she spoke about the male-dominated environment. I'm in literally the opposite, which is a female-dominated environment in a female-only workplace in the women's largest only university in the world. So it is literally the polar opposite to what she had. And what I have found is the absolute key is to empower those around you, because if you don't, your team will not excel. And I don't think an individual's success should ever be at the expense of somebody else's. So that empowerment of everybody around you is so important. And just to close on that note, and I'm delighted I get the opportunity to say this, the reason I am here today speaking at this event is because Louise asked me to join her on this session. I think that is the definition of empowerment. And it's absolutely no surprise to me that Louise is winning awards for being Leader of the Year, because if that's how she interacts with her team, and she empowers people to that extent around her, as I said, that's an incredible legacy to leave. And as I said, I'm hugely grateful to the Ulster Society, but in particular to Louise, because it was her that invited me on today to share this story. So thank you, Louise.
Not at all, Caroline. Maeve and the Ulster Society invited me, and I knew that there was another inspirational woman in the Middle East. And there's many of us out there. Trust me, there's many of us out there in the Middle East from Ireland. I've met many really successful women here. But I think what Caroline has done in Saudi, because it's exactly what she said, she is working on a polar opposite of what Mandy Hickson had throughout her career, which it's absolutely fantastic.
That's fantastic, Louise. What a very lovely, positive note to end on, Caroline and Louise. And Ulster Society's absolutely grateful for both of you coming on today. I could talk to you all day, but unfortunately it's 2 p.m. and we need to let people go on to their next meeting. But can I say a massive thanks to you both for taking the time out today and giving your insights on your leadership journey. It was really inspirational. So thank you so much for taking that time. Thank you also to Danske for supporting us again on the series. Look out for the invite for your final edition in the series on the 16th of June, where we'll be speaking to Minister Robin Swan. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.